You're listening to episode number 65 of the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. This episode is titled The Biology of Success. And in this episode, I want to talk about actually not the biology of success, even though it's titled that way, but I want to talk to you about the neurology of success, which obviously pertains to biology. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so in this episode, I do want to talk about, what I said, the biology of success, but also the neurology of success is perhaps a better way to say it. What I mean by that is I have an entire marketing team, and somebody titled a video called The Biology of Success, and without conferring with me at first, and really, obviously your brain is biology, but it's neurology, and we want to talk about the neurology of success, and I want to talk about habits, which I've talked about in other episodes before, but yet I want to put a different spin on it in this particular episode. Now, that being said, I'd mentioned in the last episode that I was, came down with a cold, and I'm still shaking it. As well, I am on family vacation. I'm in my home in Sedona, and I've got literally like 10 people here, and kids and dogs and the whole shebang, and more noise in this house. If any of you have been on a large family vacation, you know what I'm talking about. So you may hear some dogs barking or kids screaming or something in the background. Yet I have to get this done today for you guys. All right. So when I say the neurology of success, I did say, that I've also, if I didn't say, I'm saying it now, is that I've also created episodes, in one of the first 5 episodes, I believe, on habits. And I've said before is that you don't get what you want in life, you get your habits. And where I want to take this episode a little differently is, and I'm not a fan of podcasts that just repeat the same thing and same topic and they repeat it over and over. Come on, at least give me a different spin on a particular topic, which I want to do here at the end of this episode. So, we know, and that we don't get what we want, we get our habits, and habits come from the oldest part of the brain. And let me explain very quickly 3 parts of the brain. The oldest part of the brain is the reptilian part of the brain. It is the fight or flight part of the brain. It's the part of the brain responsible for survival, and it's also the part of the brain where habits are housed. We have the middle part of the brain, which is the limbic system, the mammalian brain. It is the emotional brain. And then we have the prefrontal cortex, which is the largest part of the brain, the thinking part of the brain. The prefrontal cortex is a part of you thinking right now, okay, this makes sense, yes, I get it, etc., etc. I want to make $200,000 a year, I want to be a millionaire, I want a new boat, a new car, a new home, a new job, whatever, I'm going to set my goals. And, if you've listened to the other episode on habits, is the habits come from the oldest part of the brain, which is the reptilian part of the brain. And many times we get into what I call habit battle, which is the thinking part of the brain will fight the habit part of the brain. And I won't go too far here with this because there's a whole nother episode on habits. So I won't go too far into habits, because you can listen to the other episode, which I believe is number 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere in that order. I don't know where. But as I just said, we don't get what we want in life. And again, if I'm hopping around here a little, guys, this episode's a little discombobulated. It's a combination of me not feeling well and a house full of guests and dogs and kids and everything else. So stay with me, though, because I promise to give you a big takeaway at the end of this particular episode. So continue to listen. So as I've said a couple of times, is that we don't get, you don't get, I don't get, we don't get what we want. We get our habits. And the habits come from the reptilian part of the brain. And the reason we create habits, or the reptilian part of the brain creates habits, is because imagine that you want to ride a bike, and each time that you ride a bike or drive a car or make a sandwich or read, that any time that you do anything, it's research demonstrates 95% habit. So imagine each time that you wanted to do something, you had to relearn how to do it. I mean, think about how inefficient that would be as beings, is that you had to learn how to ride a bike every time you wanted to ride a bike. So that's why we have habits. And what I want to say, and I say this in my habit program, and it's so simple that most people miss it. I mean, it's so blatantly simple that we miss it, and it's also true, and it's also proven by science. But I want to say it this way, is that everything you have, when I say everything, every bit of health that you have for the most part, meaning your physiology, providing you don't have disease, which also that can be habit created by environment and things that you eat and things of that nature. But for the most part, pretty much everything that you have is a result of habits. You have a lot of money, that is a habit, providing that you've created the habits to create that kind of wealth and income. If you continuously have no money, that is a habit. If you have great health, for the most part, that is a habit. If you have, poor health, for the most part, that is a habit as well. And it's so simple. It is so simple that when we really get that everything in life is a habit, and what we have to focus on is our habits, not what we think we want, because that gets into self-deception a lot of times, and that's prefrontal cortex. But we have to focus on our habits. So what I'm going to tell you right now, and again, I promise you I'll change this up and I'll give you a different ending here. And this is going to be a shorter episode, but I'm going to point you in a different direction this episode to create new habits, which I've not talked about with what I'm going to give you here in any other episode. So what I want to share with you is this, is that if you want to create more in life, if you want more, plain and simple, you have to change your habits. Consider that. You have to change your habits. And habits are something that happen automatically in the brain. I mean, it's hardwired in the brain when we create habits. So what I want to say here very quickly also is that you cannot use willpower to change your habits. For example, let's say when we learn to read, learning to read is a habit. We do it through rote and repetition. You can't will yourself and scream at yourself when you're, back when we learned when you were 5 years old, learn that verb, learn that word, etc. You can't do that. So what I want to talk about here is I want to combine two concepts that I talk about a lot. And by the way, guys, I'm sure every one of you have had the cold and the flu and stuff like that, and your brain is muddled. So if I'm making no sense because my brain is muddled, if I'm making no sense in this episode, email support or something and say Jim made no sense, and I'll record it again or a different perspective or something later. So thank you, for your patience with me. But what I want to talk about here is I want to talk about using the power of self-hypnosis to retrain your brain, to retrain your habits. So that's why we said in the headline, and again, as I alluded to earlier, somebody on my team wrote the headline, The Biology of Success, when it's really the neurology of success. But what we can do is you can train your brain, which is biology. You can train yourself to create new habits to be successful. So what I want to point out also, which I did a little earlier, is that your thinking pretty much is a habit. And meaning there's a difference between thought and thinking, and I'm not going to go into that in this episode. But for example, when you see somebody and you have some thought about them, let's say that Bob is a user and he's always taking advantage of people, and let's say that Sally's a doormat, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. But every time you see Bob, you might think, oh, he's a user, he uses people, or there's Sally, she's a doormat, or whatever. And I'm just using those as arbitrary examples, obviously. But what I want to point out is that you have habits and habitual thoughts about everything in your life. And even your what I call your counterproductive thinking is nothing more than learned behavior that's habitual. Your positive thinking, is nothing more than learned behavior, and it's habitual. So what we want to do is we want to habituate new thinking. Now the next question would be well, Jim, exactly how do we do that? So I want to go back again to self-hypnosis. And what I want to do is I want to refer a link here, and you'll find the link in the show notes. And the link is, I don't, people will always ask me, Jim, can you refer a certain hypnosis product, self-hypnosis for fear, anxiety, nail biting, test taking, hair pulling, and just the whole gamut of human behavior. And I don't refer a lot of sites because every site is different out there. I mean, you can Google, self-hypnosis audios and you'll find a bazillion different sites and different authors and kinds of downloads and everything else. But let me share something with you that I share with my students. The most powerful lifetime tool that you can ever master is the power of self-hypnosis. And that literally means just learning how to reprogram your subconscious mind. And technically, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis because no one has power over anyone else. But there's one audio, and people have said, well, Jim, why don't you create a similar audio? And I'm like, why would I do that when this company's already done a great job? What's the point of reinventing the wheel? I like the product. It's a really, really good process. So let me just share this with you, and we'll be in the show notes. There is a website called hypnosisdownloads.com. So what you want to do is you want to go to hypnosisdownloads.com. Again, the link will be in the show notes. And they have a particular audio that's called Learn Instant Self-Hypnosis. Again, Learn Instant Self-Hypnosis. And they use what I call neurolinguistics. They use what they call the 3-2-1 technique. Basically, the audio will condition you to drop right down into a state of self-hypnosis in a matter of seconds. On here for a few minutes, people have said, well, let me back up here, guys, is that the only thing the audio does is it will teach you, it will condition you how to go down into self-hypnosis. It does not program you for anything other than that. Let me be very clear. It does not program you for success. It does not program you for anything other than how to use the tool of self-hypnosis. Then what you'll do is you will actually, if you choose, you will purchase that audio, learn instant self-hypnosis. You're going to start reprogramming your subconscious mind. Now, let me just hop around here a little bit. This is definitely, I think, the most hodgepodge episode I've ever done. And if this is your first episode, please do not judge me on this episode. Like I said, I've got a house full of people and a cold and a muddled brain at this moment. So I'm doing my best to get this episode to you guys. All right. So what you want to do is you want to use that episode to learn how to reprogram your subconscious mind. Now, if you want more direction other than what I can give you right now, one of the episodes also is about the power of your subconscious mind. I believe it's right next to the one on habits, episode 5, 6, 7, something like that. And I recommend a book by Joseph Murphy called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Plain and simple, though, when you use the audio and you use the technique and you learn instant self-hypnosis, after a while, because it will condition you to use self-hypnosis, you won't need the audio anymore. For example, this day and age, I've done this for so long, I don't need audios. I simply take a deep breath, I follow the processes in the audio, and I drop right down into self-hypnosis in a matter of seconds. But I'm going to give you the easy version here. And the thing about us human beings is human beings love to make things hard, but I'm going to give you the easy version. Is what you want to do is you want to drop down into self-hypnosis. The audio will teach you how to do it very, very quickly. And what you want to do is see things as you want them to be. Now, let me give you an example there. Let's say, for example, that you want to be successful because this entire episode is about the biology of success, or as I said, rather the neurology of success. Let's say that you want to be a successful public speaker and you have to speak in front of people, but every time you get up, you get nervous, your hands get clammy, your knees knock. Well, what you want to do, just giving you a crash course here, is you want to drop down into self-hypnosis and you want to imagine yourself in front of an audience doing well, being comfortable, feeling good, feeling calm, feeling confident, and crushing your presentation. You do that over and over and over again, and that's how you reprogram your subconscious mind, plain and simple. And when I say plain and simple, people love to make it really, really hard. Now, I told you that I'd make this episode a little different than others because it's not just content. I'm literally suggesting you click the link, go get that audio, and learn instant self-hypnosis. And you can use it for anything. You can use it for calming your nerves, anxiety. You can use it to make yourself, as I said, calming your nerves if you have to speak in front of people. I remember one time I had a student who came to me for hypnosis, and he goes, Jim, this was many years ago, and he says that I got through the police academy using self-hypnosis because there was so much stress involved with it that every day I'd go into self-hypnosis, and I used it to calm myself down so that I could get through the police academy. So what I want to share with you is this tool is a lifetime tool, and then what you're doing is obviously you're using your mind and your brain, because what you're doing is when you go into self-hypnosis and you see things over and you imagine over and over and over and over again, because that's how the brain learns, literally, that is the neurology and the biology of success. And you can use this strategy to create success well, you can use it to create success with anything that you want in life. Okay. Geez. I made it through this episode. I muddled through, not quite sure. I know it's a shorter episode than most. And, hopefully you'll take this out. You'll get the download and you will start learning how to reprogram your subconscious mind. Whew. Okay, I made it through. So next episode is obviously on a Monday, and it's a Q&A. And the person asked a really good question. The question is, when you have extremely large goals, should you start by focusing on smaller goals? One of the biggest mistakes that most people make, and I see it all the time, and I used to be there, is when we want to create a lot of change in life, we tend to take massive action, which you hear one speaker talk about a lot. Well, the problem with that is that most of us can't sustain the massive action. When most of us have big problems, we're looking for big solutions, and that's not how we create change in life for the most part. How we create change is consistency and little by little by little. So I'm sure many of you that when you've had extremely large goals, you've tackled the goals and you've failed. Why? Because you're biting off too big of a piece, and where I'd rather you start is focusing on smaller aspects of it. I'll dig into that on the next episode. Okay, so thank you again just thank you again for putting up with me through this entire episode, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. If you found value, they will too. So please share via your social media channels. Also, if you have questions, I'm here to assist. You can email me questions to support@jimfortin.com, and I may even use your question for a future podcast episode. Also, if you want transformational content like this daily, connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram name is I am Jim Fortin. Finally, I do have a personal request. I believe that we're all here to help others and to grow and evolve ourselves. Together, you and I, let's help more people. If you would please leave a review on iTunes, and a good one, by the way. I'd be grateful, and through your assistance together, we can transform more lives. Thanks for listening.